You know, some women get pissed off that I do men's rights videos, but let me fucking tell you why. I'm not going to say who this person is, but someone very, very, very close to me. His wife just told him last night that she was leaving him. Now, this guy is the best guy. He would give the shirt off his back to anyone. He's always been the primary parent to their daughter so that she could do whatever she wanted to do. He gave her the absolute world. Whereas they've been together for 9 years and his family knows nothing about this woman. It's the most one-sided relationship I've ever seen in my life. And now she's leaving with absolutely no explanation other than to gaslight him into thinking that he didn't do enough. When in reality, she used him to build her confidence back up and then left. I saw him yesterday and I didn't know that person. He's so broken. And that is why I fight for men's rights. Tell me that men aren't abused.
This man sacrificed everything for this woman. And what did he get in return? Gratitude? Loyalty? No, he got a divorce. He never saw his own family for her. He took on the primary caregiver role and raised their daughter for her so that she could be free and unencumbered. But what did he get in return? Contempt. A woman is always going to despise a man like that. I'm not victim blaming. That's not my intention. But this outcome is somewhat inevitable. I'm not saying it's his fault. The way that women are able to just chew men up and spit them out as though they're nothing is still, frankly, terrifying to me. Like, here we have a man that she's ostensibly invested in. She married him. She had children with him, but still, he's just completely irrelevant when compared to her feelings. It's terrifying. I know that there are people in the comment section who say, Alex, you've got to man up and face reality. This is how things are, you know? And maybe there's some truth to that, but I'm not there yet. I'm still emotionally devastated when I consider just how little compassion women can show to men. But a man who's acting like this kind of outcome is inevitable. And hopefully you've watched enough of my channel to know why. You understand why this has occurred. He showed no masculinity. He had no boundaries. He sacrificed himself for her. He accepted an unequal relationship, but that's not what women want. They do not want to be put on a pedestal. When a man in a relationship acts as though the woman is more important than he is, women hate that because it runs counter to their basic instinct of hypergamy. They want to look up to their man. They want to admire that man. And so when he's like bowing at her feet, you know, idolizing her, how is she going to look up to him? She's looking down on him. When a man in a relationship acts as though she is more important than he is, women hate that because it fundamentally runs counter to the basic instinct of hypergamy. Women want to look up to their man. They want to admire their man. And so while he's busy, you know, worshipping at her feet, how's she meant to look up to him? She's looking down on him. Hopefully you understand that. If not, you got to watch more of my channel. I recommend this video, what happens if, you know, you become domesticated in a relationship, and this video, never let a woman get too comfortable. But the question here is why? Why did he allow himself to get used in this way, to just get chewed up so that she could build up her confidence and then discarded? What was his psychology? I'm guessing that he fell into the trap that too many men are falling into, which is that when they encounter a woman who's filled with hate for men, you know, they're endlessly complaining about men, they're always the victim, nothing nice to say. When they encounter a woman like that, this little spark that goes off inside them that thinks, maybe I can be the exception. Fuck that. There is no exception. When you encounter a woman like this who says that she hates men, believe her. If you spend all of your time trying to prove her wrong, that there are good men out there, that you're one of the good guys, and you know, you'll make it up to her for all the horrible things men have done, you'll be that exception. I'm telling you, you're wasting your time. Like this poor guy who wasted 9 years of his life. Why do some women just seem to hate men so much? Look, couple of different explanations. Could be cultural propaganda. She's bought into the whole female supremacist narrative. Could be toxic abuse, you know, from childhood, like her father was mean to her, or like a really bad relationship with a guy who's sort of soured her on men. Whatever the reason is, it doesn't actually matter. If you find one of these women who just hates men as a blanket rule, you've got to resist the temptation to try and be the exception. Leave these women to their fate. Don't get involved. eyes down, keep walking. Not your problem, not your responsibility to fix her flawed perception. But some guys just can't seem to resist. It's just too tempting. Sometimes they've got really low self-esteem and they think that like a man-hating woman is the best that they can do. But more often, it's an ego thing. They like being the exception. They want to feel special. If this woman hates all men, but she chooses to be with me, then that means I'm really special. I'm the one exception. What a boost to my ego. That desire to be the one good man is such a stupid ego trip. That desire to be special is going to lead you directly into the jaws of disaster. If you're one of these guys who has in the past tried to be that exception, tried to prove women wrong, like by really going out of your way to be that one good guy, that one nice guy, then you really need to listen to the next part of this video. I want to reach into your skull and extract that ridiculous impulse that you have. Now, for some guys, it's a long-term pattern. You know, their ego identity is wrapped up in being a rescuer. They feel good about themselves when they're helping other people. You often find this in families where the oldest boy is being raised by a single mother. There's no father. And so he kind of takes on some of those father responsibilities and has to listen to like his mum complain about men. And so he's like, I'm going to prove to you, mummy, that, you know, I can be a good boy, that not all men are terrible. It's actually got a name, surrogate spouse syndrome. Really dark, a really toxic form of codependence. If that in any way describes you, how you feel about yourself, then go on to Google, look up surrogate spouse syndrome and prepare to be pretty depressed. But outside of that, there's also just a fundamental masculine instinct inside of all men to protect women. Isn't that our job? Like, isn't that what the masculine does? You know, to see a woman in pain, a woman who's suffering and help her out, you know, be a good guy, provide for her, protect her. That's a really tough one. And it sucks because in that instance, your masculine instincts are actually running counter to rationality. It's why I made that video on should you feel sorry for a woman who's crying, because in that instance, your instincts are going to be triggered, but you need to logically talk yourself out of it in a lot of circumstances. But while I do feel sorry for men who have this rescuer complex, you know, that's a pattern that was put into them by an abusive mother. They're trying to get out of it, but it's hard. And I also have compassion for men who just really stand up guys and just feel like it's their job to protect men. The thing is that if you don't learn from your mistakes, like a woman takes advantage of you and starts to abuse you, like in the woman in the clip that we watched at the start of this video, if that keeps happening, then my compassion for you, it starts to fade, because here's the dark truth of it. Let's confront some dark male psychology here, is that in order for you to play out this fantasy of you being the one good guy, you being the exception, you're special, in order for you to feel that way, you have to throw all the other men under the bus. By accepting the logical premise of her value system, like the paradigm that she exists in, where all men are awful scumbags, for you to be special, you have to accept that that's true. And in order to do that, you're turning your back on all of your brothers, and that's kind of fucked up. I understand as men, we have competitive instincts. I'm not denying that, but we also have incredible instincts for cooperation. That's how we're able to build this incredible society. And even going back to, you know, caveman days, like men are working together to fight off other tribes, to build shelters, to hunt big game. Like, we have a lot of instincts inside us coded for helping each other out, like being part of a brotherhood. It's why I really don't like those guys who are playing the game of, I'm gonna be really special, I'm gonna be the exception, you know, all the other men are awful, yeah, but I'm the one good guy. I feel contempt for that behavior because it's trying to succeed at the mating game in a really sneaky, kind of deplorable way. He's actually actively complicit in encouraging her hatred of all men, because the worse everyone else is, the more he stands out by contrast. It's the sort of sneaky male behavior, sneaky mating strategy that you'd expect from a really low quality man who really doesn't have any other options. But there's no point getting too upset at him, because reality is going to punish him enough. There is no way that this strategy is actually going to be successful. Can you imagine how much pressure it is on him to be the one exception, the one good guy in the universe? Here's what the relationship ends up looking like. You've got the woman complaining about men all the time. She's bitter and she's angry. And instead of pointing out that she's being sexist and irrational, he feeds it because he wants that feeling of, yes, she chose me. I'm special. I'm the exception. But you're dealing with a woman who's not thinking rationally. She's not in touch with reality. It's like a woman who can't take responsibility for her own choices or behaviors. She just projects all that blame outwards. Well, how long do you think it's going to be before a woman who thinks like that is going to realize that your desire to be the exception, to please her, whatever cost, can quickly be exploited and abused, and she starts manipulating you to do whatever it is that she wants? The relationship will become abusive. It is absolutely inevitable because it was founded on principles of codependence from the beginning. I already talked about this in one of my Patreon videos. Should you cater to women's tastes or should you be independent? Really good video. So think about that example from the beginning of the video, that clip that we watched. You know, she says, I don't want you to see your family. I just want you to dedicate yourself to me and my family. Well, if he objects to that, saying that's a double standard, that's sexist, that's ridiculous, then suddenly she just plays victim, like, oh, you're just like all the other men, aren't you? Just completely ignoring my wishes. That triggers that need inside him, that ego desire to be special. And so he sacrifices for her. She wants total freedom. She doesn't want to work. She doesn't want to raise the daughter. And so she demands that you be the primary caregiver, you raise their daughter. And if you object and say something like, actually, I think it's a good idea for a child to bond with their mother, suddenly she's like, oh, typical man. You just think it's a woman's work to be the parent. Oh, you're just like all the rest of them, aren't you? And again, he sacrifices, thinking that perhaps this big gesture of what he's doing, sacrificing the very basis of objective rationality for her sake, is somehow going to be rewarded or inspire gratitude in her. But of course it doesn't. It was never going to, because this is not a woman who's playing by any kind of rational rules. She was completely irrational from the beginning. The relationship was founded on a principle of incredible double standards and sexism. What a surprise that it comes back to bite you in the ass. How are you possibly going to expect a woman like this to take responsibility for herself? Her very belief system proves that she's incapable of doing that. Like, if you ever talk to a woman like this, really, all men are trash, all men are scumbags, you know? All men have treated you awfully and you're perfect? Absolutely zero chance that's true. If you're ever experiencing a situation where everybody else is at fault except for you, I guarantee you're the problem. If she hasn't realized that very, very obvious fact of reality, then she's not going to realize how unfair it is that she's treating you this way. She's certainly not going to give you any credit. So give up this game. Allow your ego to shrink. It's not worth it. Don't try and be the one exception, the one good man. It's not a safe game to play. It's a sneaky male strategy for low-quality men who can't succeed in the normal mating game. What you need to do is find a woman who loves men, a woman who has positive opinions of men. That's a woman who you can trust. My latest Patreon video is my favorite Patreon video I've recorded in a long time. I found it really fascinating because it was giving women dating advice, which I don't get to do very often. And the question was this: should women be trying to find a man who's already a finished product, who's well established, or should they find a man who's in progress? Like, he's developing into a high quality man, but he's not there yet. I got to go down so many rabbit holes with this video. I found it absolutely fascinating in its intellectual exploration. I'm sure you're going to love it too. If you want access to that video, then you got to go and sign up at my Patreon. It's just $5. It's not much. It's $5 a month. You get access to that video plus every other video in my back catalog. Tremendous value, great community, great way to support the creator. I'd love to see you over there so that you can be a part of it.